Silence. It lingers in the space between words, between glances, between two people who once stood close but now stand just far enough apart. It is the sound of a phone that does not ring, a message that is not answered, a gaze that flickers, not because there is no interest, but because there is too much. And yet, there is a myth, a cruel one at that, which tells us that avoidants do not want connection, that they are emotionally cold, detached, incapable of love. Ah, but that, my dear listener, is a grand illusion. The avoidant's silent cry for connection is real, whispered not in words but in absence, not in presence but in hesitation. And today, we shall uncover what they will never tell you. We will unravel the mystery of why they push away the very thing they crave. We will step into the world of those who long for closeness, yet fear it more than anything. And by the end, perhaps, you will no longer see them as distant figures in the shadows, but as human beings, aching, yearning, and most of all, terrified. So sit with me. Let's take a journey. I promise you stories. I promise you revelations. And above all, I promise you truth. Now, if you've ever loved an avoidant, you will recognize the paradox. One moment, they are warm, present, leaning into your embrace, murmuring something soft in the quiet hours of the night. And the next, gone. Like mist retreating before the morning sun. They withdraw, not with anger nor with cruelty, but with an instinct so deep, so automatic, even they do not fully understand it. Because to need, for them, is to risk. To attach, for them, is to invite pain. They are not born this way, you see. No, avoidance is not a choice, it is a response. A lesson learned long ago in childhood bedrooms where love came with conditions, where affection was given in careful, measured doses, but never quite guaranteed. Perhaps their parents were distant, emotionally absent. Perhaps warmth was given and then snatched away. Or perhaps they learned, from a young age, that to be vulnerable was to be powerless. And so they built walls, strong ones, tall ones, not to keep love out, no, but to keep pain at bay. But here is the tragedy, my dear listener. The walls do not protect, they imprison. Because for all their withdrawal, for all their detachment, avoidants are some of the most deeply feeling people you will ever meet. It is not that they do not care, it is that they care too much. And when the weight of that care becomes unbearable, they retreat, not because they want to leave, but because staying feels far more dangerous. The subtle ways an avoidant cries for connection. Now, if an avoidant were to be honest, if they were to stand before you and lay their heart bare, they might say something like this: "Please don't give up on me. I know I push you away, but I don't mean to. I want to be close, but I'm afraid of what it might cost me." But of course, they will not say these things. They will show you in ways so subtle, so easy to misinterpret, that most people never notice. They will text you after days of silence, not to make plans, but with some insignificant message, a question they could have Googled, a meme that makes no sense, and you will wonder, why? Ah, but that is not a message. That is a whisper. Are you still there? They will recall a small detail you mentioned weeks ago, your favorite book, how you take your tea, the way you crinkle your nose when you're deep in thought. And you will think, if they care, why do they still keep me at a distance? Ah, but that is not indifference. That is, I see you, even from afar. They will linger just a moment too long when saying goodbye. Their fingers brushing yours, their gaze soft, uncertain. And yet they will not take the final step forward. Because closeness is a fire, and they have burned before. So they will keep you close, just close enough to feel your warmth, but never close enough to risk being consumed. And so if you are waiting for an avoidant to declare their love boldly, to reach for you without hesitation, you will be waiting a long, long time. because that is not how they love. They love in echoes, in hesitation, in quiet, careful longing. Why they leave, even when they don't want to. And here is the cruelest truth of them all. An avoidant will leave, not because they do not love you, but because they do. Because love to them is not warmth, it is exposure. It is standing naked before another and waiting for the inevitable disappointment. You see, deep down, every avoidant carries a single belief. If you knew me, truly knew me, you would not stay. So they leave first. They leave before the moment you discover their flaws, their wounds, the parts of them they deem unworthy of love. But here is what they do not realize, what most people never realize. Love is not about perfection. It is not about never being abandoned. It is not about ensuring the other person will never hurt you. Love is stepping forward, despite the fear, and saying, I will try anyway. And yet for an avoidant, this is the greatest risk of all. Because love is control lost, and they have spent a lifetime ensuring that they are never at the mercy of another. Now I know what you are wondering. How do I help them? How do I make them feel safe? But here is the trick, my dear listener. You cannot make an avoidant feel safe. You can only create a space where they feel safe enough to step forward on their own. You do not chase them, for they will run. You do not demand, for they will retreat. You do not try to force them open, for that will only reinforce what they fear. That love is something that traps, that takes, that demands too much. Instead, you become the one thing they have never known. A presence that does not threaten, a hand that does not pull, a heart that does not force its way in. You show them, in the smallest of ways, that love does not have to be loss, that closeness does not have to be suffocating, that connection does not have to mean captivity. And in time, if they are willing, if they are ready, you may just find them stepping forward, slowly, hesitantly, but forward nonetheless. And when they do, you will know one thing for certain. They have chosen you, not out of fear, not out of obligation, but because for the first time, love did not feel like something to run from. And that, dear listener, is the rarest gift of all. So, now you know. The avoidant's silent cry for connection is real. They do not show it in ways you expect. They will not hand you their heart freely. They will hesitate, withdraw, test the waters, and then retreat. But do not mistake this for apathy, because if they care enough to keep looking back, to return, even in hesitation, then despite their fear, despite their instinct to run, they are still hoping. And that, my dear friend, is where real love begins. Now, if this monologue has resonated with you, if you have ever loved an avoidant, or if you are one yourself, consider staying a while. Subscribe, share, and join the conversation. Until next time, stay patient, stay wise, and above all, stay kind.
If you believe this video might help someone dear to you, share it with them. A small gesture on your part could mean the world to a friend in need.